Hi, beautiful souls. This is Sadhana. Welcome to my channel. This is the fifth in a series of videos that I'm doing on deck combinations, and we're going to start today with the Everyday Witch Tarot and the Earthly Souls Oracle deck. This is a Terri Foss deck, Etsy deck, and of course this is a mass market deck. I know this is a favorite of a lot of people, but if it's not one of your favorites, please skip ahead. There will be other combinations after this. I know the Everyday Witch does lack diversity, which is a problem for some people. So yeah, so go ahead and skip to the next combination. The reason that I'm pairing these two decks is that I find the Everyday Witch to be quite optimistic. It's a pretty happy deck for me, and there's a few cards that, of course, are more direct, but there's not a lot of shadow cards in this deck. And so by pairing this deck with the Terri Foss deck, it gives it a little more depth. At least that's my experience. So here we have the card Manifest. It's really actually beautiful. So with the Seven of Pentacles back facing towards the Manifest, this kind of tells me that there's been some disillusionment around the project as it goes on, and that there needs to be a new kind of sense of faith, sense of belief in the project. And so, yeah, so these two cards speak really, really well to each other. And if that energy is put into the project, if there's kind of like this new resurgence put into the project, then, you know, this tells me that everything is going to be just fine. But don't they look really nice together? I love the color combinations as well, too. Let's do a couple just so you can get a sense for how these two decks talk to each other. And I may have to, I'm reading upside down, so I may have to turn the Oracle card over to read the scriptiness of it. I believe this one, yeah, Divinity. So there's a sense of, what can I say? There's a real depth to this deck, and the artwork is extremely beautiful, and I think it really complements the everydayness of the Everyday Witch. So here we have the Two of Cups, which reminds me of a scene from Shirley Valentine, if you know what that movie is, and the Eight of Swords. And this is really kind of beautiful. So here we have a woman alone. Here we have two people together. And so even though this is not a diverse deck, you know, you don't have to read this as, you know, two white people, male, female, in a relationship. You really can kind of rise up above and beyond that. So the question here is, where is the divinity in this relationship? And why is the divinity lost in this situation? And where is the sense of hopelessness coming from? And this card is very much about being too much in your head and not in your heart, whereas this card is very much, you know, being in the heart. So for me, this is about bringing the connection and realizing that the connection is always there. And yeah, being, what's the expression? Finding the grace, finding the magic in the simple things, in the moments, and, you know, really stepping away from that sense of too much headiness. Yeah. I'm going to keep these readings really kind of simple and quick. So there we have, oh, such beautiful cards. Nurture. Okay, so nurture. We have Knight of Cups, who is moving towards the house. And then we have the Seven of Swords moving away. So something is being taken, quite possibly from the house or from the relationship, or perhaps this figure is moving away from the Knight of Cups. Maybe the Knight of Cups is just too much lovey-dovey, and the relationship, there needs to be some, what I want to say, there needs to be some support for this relationship, because this is not a healthy relationship. Something is being misunderstood, completely misunderstood. And there's a reason. This is almost a sense of protection to me, why this hooded figure is leaving the scene and why it's almost like the Knight of Cups is chasing her. And so, you know, it's not a good situation, not something you would want to see in a relationship reading. Look at the beautiful colors. It's such a perfect pairing of decks. Okay, so here we have a very black and white colored card. And this is the last one we'll do for this deck. So we have 9 of Swords and 10 of Pentacles. And this one is called Radiant. And isn't that beautiful? Because Radiance, we would expect to have the card to be, you know, really, really colorful. But here we need to look at the magic in the energy of the earth and in the energy of, you know, the moonlight, and seeing the radiance and the brilliance in the moonlight as well as the sunlight. And so 10 of Pentacles and 9 of Swords. So again, there's kind of a misunderstanding that's going on here, a misperception, and not seeing the big picture. So the question here is, how do we kind of step back and see the big picture? Well, first of all, I would, you know, always remember that, you know, things always look better in the brightness of the sun. However, we have to be okay with looking at things in the darkness. And we have to be as comfortable being in the darkness as in the sunshine. And we have to be as comfortable with being alone as we are with family. So this is a kind of big reading here. And I would spend a lot more time on this, because I think this is a really important message. So these are the Earthly Soul. This is the Earthly Souls deck by Terri Foss. Like I said, available on Etsy, and I will link all of the decks below that we're going to look at today. The next deck that we're going to look at is by Michelle Motuzas. And this is the only deck of hers that I currently have. She does have another oracle deck that is currently available also from Schiffer. It's available on Amazon. And she is creating a new oracle deck as well as a new tarot deck. I believe it's a Color Me In tarot deck. And I am in love with her artwork. I believe on her website, it might be in the guidebook, somewhere I read that one of the things about, and she teaches art as well too, and teaches, does a lot of spirit drawings, I think, for people, spirit animal drawings. These drawings remind me of chalk, like drawing on chalkboard. And what I was saying is that it is important to be okay with the imperfection of the art. And that the art doesn't have to be perfect. Each of us, every single one of us, has the ability to do simple drawings. And we need to, whether we're talking about drawings or something else, we need to be okay with the imperfection. But anyway, I do not find these cards imperfect in any way. I love the depth of meaning with these cards. There's a few of them that always seem to come up for me. I love the range of colors. They're just super, I don't know. It's a very, very special deck for me. And I have ordered her other deck that is available. So I'm hoping to share that with you soon. So this is called the Shamanic Healing Oracle, and I have 3 different decks that I'm going to pair this with today, because I think this is a very versatile deck. Very, very versatile, and it can be used with lots of different decks. So the first one that's in front of me is another oracle deck. And why would you want to pair together 2 oracle decks? Well, I think the answer is that when you pair decks together, you get a depth of meaning, you get confirmation, you get the cards, you get the decks talking to each other. And there is always, you know, there's strength in pairing decks up. And we have here the Messenger cards by Sandra Coons. This is a brilliant deck to pair with lots of different earth-based decks and animal decks, as is the Shamanic Healing. So here we have Gentle Awakening. Notice how the deer or the elk is moving away. So there's some resistance to the awakening, some resistance to the, you know, what is coming up in this card here. This card is kind of dark. Change. So I would definitely pull some other cards here. So there is some resistance to this change. There's some kind of spiritual awakening potentially that's happening here. And yeah, that's kind of how I see that. So let's add a tarot deck in here as well too. I have a few here with me today. So one of them is the Crow Tarot. And the Crow Tarot, because it has so many crows, works really, really well with Sandra Coons' deck, because there's a lot of ravens in Sandra Coons' deck, and the colors and the mood, the nature element works well also with the Shamanic Healing Oracle. So I had this deck sorted, and I'm just going to give it another shuffle. This Crow Tarot is fairly new. Okay, so let's see what this resistance is about. And we have 10 of Pentacles. That's pretty funny. Not everybody is comfortable, you know, with family, with large families, with, you know, dealing with relations and family trees, and families are complicated. And I see this card very, very much as about the interconnectedness of family. And so there is some change that's happening with this. So perhaps there's a new person coming into the family, or maybe there was a loss in the family. And the querent here, I can very much see this as the querent. The querent is moving away and resisting this change in the family. But these three decks, oh, they look so good together. Let's move the tarot deck into the middle. Okay. All right, so let's do another pair. So here we have Nine of Cups, which is a kind of double-edged sword card for me. So this is either about excessiveness, or it can also be, you know, about the, it can be a really beautiful card as well too. And then here we have Stripping Illusion, which kind of goes perfectly with this card, because this card can really speak to excessiveness and what is the, you know, what are you missing here? Because there is a sense of, with these two cards together, a sense of delusion, and maybe this card will give us the answer. The Keeper of the Magic. So the magic has been lost. And look how the crows in both of these decks are facing the same direction. They have the same body language, the same position. So it's like this crow is reinforcing the information on this card. And so this is a really important to, you know, kind of explore what is the illusion that needs to be stripped away. Let's do one more. Healing Energy. Wheel of Fortune. And Life is Simple. Welcome back. If the lighting looks different, it is a different day, a different time, but I left these three cards out because I thought this was just such a beautiful draw and I wanted to speak to it. It's incredible to me how when you choose decks like this and you decide to try to work them together, how, you know, I just happen to be making this video and these three cards come up, and I've spoken about this before. There's this energy in color, and we have this synchronicity of color among these three cards. And of course I chose these decks because I know they pair well together, but it just, reflecting on the color of these 3 cards, I see the reds, and I see that the frequency of color is just really important. And when you are choosing decks, of course, I feel the theme matters as well too, because there is an energy in those messages, but there's just something about when the colors resonate and interact with each other. It just makes a really, really potent reading. So I just wanted to mention that. So once again, we have Life is Simple, Wheel of Fortune, and Healing Energy. As you probably are aware, this is not an easy card, and this card comes up at many different times. So depending on what the querent has asked, it is a card of change, and change is something that we have to learn to take in stride and not allow it to, ruffle our feathers. It's really important that as we go through change, whether it is in a more positive direction, neutral, or a more challenging direction, that we, we want to really watch our reactions to the change, because it's our reaction to the change that's going to determine how difficult or how smoothly we're going to move through that energy. And so the change that's happening here has to do with healing, but also the healing really kind of speaks to me of this card here. And I think that everyone who's probably listening to this video, is aware of the complexity of our lives. Our lives get very, very busy, and we get lost in the busyness of life. And sometimes we forget that life is simple and that we need to really bring forth pleasure, joy, happiness, experiences through really simple experiences, simple times, simple pleasures, and know that we do not have to create a lot of fuss about anything, about a celebration for somebody's birthday, about an anniversary, even about a death or a birth. We need to really learn how to dial it down and dial it back. And so if this resonates with you, this is very much a healing message about simplifying your life and changing your life so that so that you can step away from making everything complex. And so I'm happy I left these cards out, because this is a pretty special message, and I'm sure that anyone watching this video can relate to the power of this reminder. So as I was saying, I have several different tarot decks on the table, and they really all do work with both of these oracle cards, and I could actually put 4 decks on the table right now. The other one I have here is the Vision Quest. This is a deck that I fell in love with when I was doing my shamanic yoga teacher training. So this was a training where we walked the wheels, so we did the directions, and then there was also a yoga teacher training incorporated in it. And this was on the altar at that course. And so so I ordered this deck. It's a really beautiful deck, and you can pair it with lots of different animal and native spirit kind of decks. But I just think that it works well with, any of these that I have here. I find it difficult if you have more than one tarot deck in a reading. It gets really complicated, but these two look so pretty together. Anyway, I'm going to slide the Crow Tarot out of the way, and I'm going to put the Vision Quest in the middle, and we'll do 2 draws with the Vision Quest. I got this deck long before I started trimming, and this deck, the borders are a little bit muted around the edge of the cards. Actually, I should turn it this way, shouldn't I? So it never got trimmed, and maybe that's something that I should do. I did use this recently for an event, and it was a very, very powerful deck. Gave some great readings. If you don't have this deck, you should know that this is a Thoth-based deck, not a Rider-Waite-Smith-based deck. So a lot of it, you can read it because there's keywords on it. But if you are surprised with some of the keywords, it's because it's based in the Thoth system, not the Rider-Waite-Smith. So again, let's just talk a little bit about the energy of color. So we pull a card here that's got these pinks, right, and purples, and then this card happens to have that. So this is about transformation. We happen to pull a card here that's about new beginnings, and this is about psychic development. So what is the transformation? What is the new beginning? It's about probably a journey with trusting your intuition and starting to work with your intuition. So if I had a draw like this with a client, I would probably actually work on some techniques and give them some practices to help in the development and their psychic development. So this is one of the things I love to do. For me, a reading isn't just a reading. I work with people on many levels, and I find that readings are a gateway to other conversations. And if you have, beautiful decks, it can really initiate an important conversation. So here we have allowing, which is been a very important word for me, not so much allowing, but allow. Over the past 9 months, we have Daughter of Earth. So we have a younger energy. We have kind of a soulful, youthful connection to the earth that comes up with this card. Also a willingness to really engage with the elements. So we need to look kind of to, without even reading this card over here, we need to kind of look to giving yourself permission to maybe spend a bit more time in your garden. I mean, that's a really simplistic way to look at it, but find a way to connect to the Mother Earth, and to maybe do some kind of grounding or meditation exercises where you feel that deep-rooted connection and that sense of safety with the Earth Mother. Okay, so now let's add the energy of this card. So this is Reunion of Souls. The other thing that is really apparent here is that nobody's really paying attention to each other in this reading. So if you read with direction, the Daughter of Earth is looking toward the energy on this card, which is looking to the past or outside of the reading. And here we have the back of the Daughter of Earth to this card. And we have one of the birds looking away and one of the birds, toward the back. So there's some disconnect here for sure, and a need to reconnect with another soul. And this definitely could be, just a very personal journey about learning, about spending some time reconnecting with your own soul. And that's where I would go with this reading, because there's a very, very strong message here about the connection to the Earth Mother herself. And the reunion could be about that connection to, the soul of the Earth Mother. So yeah, really amazing. Let's do one more. So this is the Hanged Man card, and in this deck it's called the Vision Quest. And then we have number 19, Owning Your Power. Unlimited possibilities. How perfect is that? Anything can happen if we allow it to happen and if you own your power. So again, we have, 3 decks completely, in sync with each other and, dialed dialing forth a unified message to the querent, or to yourself if you're using these decks to read with yourself. And then something completely different I just wanted to offer, because I know a lot of people have a hard time reading with this deck. This is the Ophidia Rosa Tarot, and one of Nicole Rallis's decks. She has a couple of oracle decks, which I have shared in my in some of my other videos. The difficulty with this deck is that it's not just plant-based energy. There's a lot of other random things in the deck as well. There are a lot of objects, material objects from this world, which sometimes can really confuse a reading. So here we have the King of Pentacles. And even if you're not aware of the medicine of the flowers, because the flowers are not named or identified in the little guide sheet that comes with this, and as I've said before in other videos, you really need to spend a lot of time with Nicole's 3 decks in order to figure out what the flowers are. But we're looking here at quite a strong stalk here with these flowers. And then we have almost a circle shape, you know, around the strength of these flowers here. You can go to, of course, to your experience with the Rider-Waite or any of the other systems and look at the King of Pentacles, and you'll see that the King of Pentacles is, you know, it's kind of a family man. He's very much at home, being with the earth, being with people. And the joy of right now is very much talks about the King of Pentacles. The King of Pentacles has no issue with being right now. So what is this reading about? These cards, yeah, they support each other. No surprises there. So then we go to the Oracle deck over here, and we have letting go. Well, we can look to the artwork, of course, and we have a blackbird, and then and below we have a white bird. We have a mirror reflection of the trees, and so this could be speaking to identity, letting go of identity, letting go of clinging to identity, letting go of clinging to the perception of how we think we need to be or how we think we need to act. And so this could be, you know, very much about you know, the part of yourself that thinks or feels, or for some reason, because one of the shadow sides of the King of Pentacles is that there's just too much responsibility. We feel like we have to look after everyone. So this is, of course, not the Queen of Pentacles, not the caregiver, but there is an aspect of that energy with the King of Pentacles. And there's a lot of people, a lot of extended family that the King of Pentacles kind of reaches out to. And so this might be a really important time in the, and remember, this is not necessarily a king. We all embody the qualities of all 16 court cards, regardless of the gender. This is nothing to do with gender. This is about energy and qualities. So this this need to be in charge and to be responsible for a vast number of people is maybe something that needs to be eased up on a little bit, and letting go of some aspect of that. And for me, the joy of right now is asking yourself, in the midst of all of this, what is it that you need to do right now? What is it that you really want to do right now for yourself? What have you been putting off or neglecting because you've been so busy looking after others? So that's one possible way I would read those 3 cards. And then let's do one more here. So we have Wands, 2 of Wands. Such a pretty card. So something is emerging. I see the 2 of Wands very much as moving forward. It's a time to make a decision to move forward on your path. And Of course, the Three of Wands kind of speaks to what is coming forth, but you have to move. The wands are about action. So you have to make a decision, and you have to decide whether you're going to go right or you're going to go left or you're going to go straight ahead. But it is time to stop thinking about it. It's time to really act and move forward. Faith and trust. You need to trust that you have this, that you have the power, the qualities necessary to act and to move forth with your new project, your new job, your new venture, your new trip, whatever it is that's coming up for you. And this is kind of special here. So look at the shape of the card in the center and the shape of the card over here. There's kind of a strength, there's a power, there's an energy coming through the body of the dragonfly that is replicated in the kind of the strength of the two branches that are in the central tarot card. And then we have truth. This is not something I would normally do, but I'm looking at these cards upside down, and what is speaking to me is the strength of these three figures here. So the strength, that kind of beautiful erect posture, and the power to, standing up for yourself and believing in yourself. So believe in yourself. Know that you've got this. It's time for you to not only know your truth, but speak your truth, but to live and be your truth, and have faith and trust that you know exactly what it is that you're supposed to do and exactly where it is you're supposed to go. This, of course, is the element of fire, and these are both animals of air, so animals of flight. We have a very intuitive, kind of magical being here, and we have a very wise and strong and powerful being here. So this is a really positive, like if you were asking, am I making the right decision about what it is that I'm moving forward with? The answer is yes. You are definitely making the right decision, and your next step, you need to trust that you've got your next step. You know what the answer is. There was one other thing I wanted to say about this, was that we have wands and we have air. So both of these kind of suits, if you will, show a tremendous deal of strength as well too. And so this definitely is a time of action and moving forward. So I hope this has been giving you a little bit of inspiration to really play with your decks, and to learn how to, if you're having trouble especially reading a particular tarot deck, then to bring in some oracles to help bring forth the energy of the decks. And I don't usually recommend reading your decks upside down. Not reading reversals, but actually reading your decks upside down might give you another perspective, and to look at the images in another way. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to reading your questions and your comments below, and let me know if you have any requests for future videos or other decks that you have difficulty reading, and maybe I could help you pair up some tarot and oracle decks to help kind of bring out the energy of the deck so that it's easier to read. Stay well, my friends. Namaste.